This morning, on the 1st of October 2025, several videos of Yaroslavl oil refinery on fire started spreading aggressively on Telegram channels, finally making their way on to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. This is Soup of the Week. My name is Pekka Kallionimi, and I'm going to talk about the gas shortage and oil crisis in Russia. So let's dive in. So this is the video. Let's see. Yaroslavl refinery is one of the largest in Russia, and it's been kind of talked for a while now in the pro-Ukrainian circles that it should be targeted now that Ukraine has the capabilities to strike it. And now finally it happened. So the facility processes about 15 million tons of crude on annually. I don't know how much that is. I suppose it's a lot. And it looks like it's actually, there's a lot of damage to the refinery. But there is actually a need. They call it the oil refinery bingo. But there's this chart that shows which refineries in Russia have been targeted by Ukraine. So as you can see on the upper row is the biggest one. So Yaroslavl refinery was the last one of the 5 biggest ones that wasn't targeted until this morning or last night. So finally, it's been targeted also. There are also a few smaller ones that haven't been targeted, but I'm sure that the bingo players will also see hits on these refineries in the near future too, because of Ukraine's increased capabilities to strike deep inside Russia. Anyway, let's move on a little bit. So Russia's gasoline crisis deepens as drones hit more refineries, reports Forbes. And this is from 2 days ago. Basically, it outlines the problem, and the official response so far has been deny. One of the reasons they've given is bad weather and maintenance. So they are not willing to admit that Ukraine has the upper hand in the war right now. This is true because if this continues, if they cannot start defending these refineries, Russia will run out of money. They will run out of oil. It will be very difficult for them to arrange logistics. It will be a very, very difficult upwards battle for them. So, and recently, like yesterday, they also extended gasoline export ban. They restrict diesel shipments because they need this inside the country. They need it for their military. They need it for basic logistics of moving groceries and trade goods around. So this again is much less money for the Russian military as a whole. So this has been one of the probably the most effective campaign that Ukraine has conducted together with the genius spiderweb operation in which they destroyed a lot of those Russian bombers. But let's go a little bit back in history. So in November 2024, Joe Biden, who was still the president back then, he authorized Ukraine to use long-range US weapons inside Russia. And this had been a topic of discussion for a long time, and it frustrated a lot of people that Biden said basically told Zelensky that Ukraine cannot strike inside Russia, it's like, okay, you're fighting a fight with other hand tied behind your back. It's just very, very challenging. But yeah, in November 2024, it looked like, basically Trump had already won the presidency, so it didn't matter so much anymore. And he lifted this restriction. And immediately Ukraine started striking deeper and deeper inside Russia.
Deeper and deeper.
And as is tradition with this kind of two-party system, Trump immediately started criticizing Ukraine's use of missiles for attacks deep inside, because Biden agreed to it, then Trump has to oppose it. But until like maybe 2 months ago, 1 month ago, Trump kind of applauded and even encouraged Zelensky and Ukraine to strike deep inside Russia so that Russia could be kind of, maybe forced to the negotiation table, because they cannot, if their whole refinery network is being targeted, how can they make money? They basically, their whole economy is based on this. It's Russia is a gas station run by mafia, basically. And also there was because of a lot of the infighting between Democrats and Republicans, there was a long delay of weapon deliveries from the US. The US has the most effective weapons, missiles in the world, and Ukraine was kind of expecting these to be delivered. They promised they were approved by the Congress and also approved by Joe Biden. But Trump then used it as a kind of political tool, and a lot of these shipments were delayed for various reasons. There is a person called Elbridge Colby who has been kind of the mastermind of delaying and canceling these weapon deliveries. So Ukraine decided, okay, we're going to create our own weapons. And that's exactly what they did. And many of you probably have heard of this Flamingo missile that has a very, very long range and bigger payload, so you can make a bigger boom out of it than drones, for example. But Ukraine also has a lot of drones that can travel really long distances. Only their payload is smaller, so you need more of them. The main thing is that Russia cannot defend all of these refineries. They simply do not have air defense that is effective enough. A lot of their air defense is actually used in protecting the leadership, but also used in Ukraine, of course, and a lot of it is in Crimea. So they cannot spread out these air defense systems throughout the whole country, which makes these oil refineries a perfect target for Ukrainian drones and missiles. And yes, there is a massive gas fuel shortage in Russia right now. For example, well, there's a lot of examples. Here's actually interesting video of a gasoline situation on M12 highway between Moscow and Kazan. There's only one filling station per 150 kilometers and 130 cars in front of us. So they are waiting for quite a long time before they can get fuel. So these lines are getting ridiculously long. And this is exactly a thing that could actually break the Russian spirit. Once it starts affecting their everyday lives, you kind of start thinking, I'm not sure if I like Putin that much anymore, because I cannot even drive my car. And this is something, it's a slow effect. It takes time, but over time this accumulates and it becomes a much bigger thing. Another video.
Народ подъезжает.
1 октября 2005 год, время 8:45 утра. АЗС, город Советская Гавань, АЗС Трансбункер. Очередь с 3 сторон.
So as you can see, these lines are long, very, very long. In many the Union of Independent Gas Stations, Russia has appealed for help. Many private gas stations have had to close because wholesale prices have exceeded retail prices, and the government is preventing price increases. So it's impossible to do business anymore. Fuel delivery times have increased to 1 to 2 months. That's a very long time to wait for more product produced. And there's actually a neat map done by ex-user Del4. You should follow them on X if you wanna look at this more closely. But they have created this neat map that you can follow, and you can see when the gas and diesel shortages started. So in some regions it started already 6 weeks ago, but there's also a lot of new areas where this is happening. So the problem is most definitely expanding very quickly. And my prediction is that the whole map will be red in the following months. There's also they're making these lists of cars that are allowed to refill at gas stations. So probably logistics and military are prioritized, but there's also limitations of how much you can put gas in your car. So it's like it can vary from like 10 to 30 liters you can buy at one time. So they are really rationing gas right now. And of course, the problem will only become bigger. A lot of these images, like they just simply don't have anything to sell, which is also a reason why a lot of these gas stations are shutting down. You cannot sell anything. You're still paying rent. You're still paying for your license and so on. So what are you going to do? You'll go bankrupt. And this is actually a very interesting point too. So Russia is now transferring fuel to Crimea via the Crimea bridge. The occupiers have a critical shortage of gasoline, and the situation has become extremely critical. And if there's no gas in Crimea, it's pretty bad situation for Crimea, for defending Crimea. And if the only way to actually do this is to kind of transfer or transport fuel or gas to Crimea is the Crimea bridge, Ukraine will probably target that bridge. I think there was an incident about the train. So there was this train route on the mainland, but Ukrainian drones targeted a train, and if I remember correctly, the train is still there, so they cannot use that route anymore, and they probably don't want to because of the drone risk. So they are using the bridge, which is probably a much lower route and much more dangerous route in a sense that also it could be targeted by naval drones, missiles. But anyway, Crimea has also been targeted aggressively by Ukrainian forces lately. So a lot of interesting things also happening around that region. Yeah, this is the same. Let's look at this photo once more, zoom in. So basically, as you can see, a lot of big refineries have already been targeted. Some of these are very far away. So Omsk refinery is 2,500 kilometers. That's a very long distance for a drone to travel. And some of these are just very heavily defended, but yet Ukrainian drones somehow managed to find a good spot to hit. So that's basically what's happening right now. And of course, this affects a lot of things. This affects agriculture. So Russian farmers in Chelyabinsk and Novosibirsk are now complaining of a lack of diesel fuel. So this will also, of course, it will affect logistics, it will affect agriculture, it will affect everything. It will affect exports, possibly even imports. So it's a really big crisis for Russia right now. Just to kind of conclude that Ukraine has now started using a strategy that Russia used for a long time before this. So they have started targeting power plants inside Russia. So Russia has been bombing and sending drones towards critical infrastructure like power plants for a long time inside Ukraine, because this is it's a kind of terror tactic. So when people are during winter, if they run out of electricity, it's very difficult to heat things up. Heat your apartment. Without electricity, you cannot do basic stuff. That's the kind of main point to it. But now Ukraine has said, okay, screw it. We're not gonna play by the rules if Russia is not doing that either too. So they've started targeting these, at least once they targeted this thermal power plant in Belgorod. So this is something we might see more in the upcoming months when the winter comes, because this could also be something that kind of snaps the spine of the Russian general population. So once if you cannot heat up your apartment, your fancy Moscow or St. Petersburg apartment, you suddenly start thinking, okay, maybe Putin isn't the right guy for us. Anyway, this was Soup of the Week. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and so on. Thank you all, soup lovers, and see you next time.